Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes. This day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
If I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? I did get in a quick show before I'm going to be a guest for a bit later. So how are you doing? I'm doing good, thank you. Kind of. You all saw my update earlier today. I'm exhausted. Can't wait for this whole portion of this trials of my life. It's like the soap opera instead of days of our lives to be over. And I realize I'm talking a bit quiet. Don't want that. All right, so we're going to do a little bit on what happened on my Town of Castle Rock meeting the other day. But before we do, there below, I am new month. Hey, hello, Joy. New month for everyone. If you can consider becoming a patron, I would truly appreciate it. There's always the typical monthly attrition, so I am finding myself behind $20 a month in patrons. So if you could help make up that, it would be greatly appreciated by becoming a patron. And I want to get that off the screen because there's something else I want to show you. Oh, and look, here's the new shirt. I wanted to model the merchandise, and this is in the ladies' cut, which I normally don't like, but I like this ladies' cut. I decided to try it. It's nice and like super stretchy for the girls, you know, you get what I'm saying. And yeah, so it's the gotta get it lined up here. Say decorum one more time. I dare ya. And I wanted to show you, we have a model. And here is CJ Abernathy in the darker pink of these shirts. Hello, Stephen. Hello, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff. He looks very pretty in pink, doesn't he? He didn't get the ladies cut, though. It's a man's shirt. He wants you to know it might be pink. But it was... There was a state of town meeting today, Farhan. I didn't even know that. You're going to love what I'm going to show you now, though, if you didn't watch it already online. Yeah, it's a man's shirt in pink, but CJ looks quite wonderful in it. So I wanted to show you that. And I do have a tiny URL here if you would like to pick up some merch. tinyurl.com/Pink Flame merch. You can get one of these bad boys. I want to see a bunch of these in Reno and at state conventions. Okay? You'll make my day. I do need to see a bunch of these. Okay. Let's get this off the screen because I do have to get ready for another show, but I wanted to give you that. All right, so let's set this up. Farhan knows this whole story, but it's been a long, convoluted road with our town council. And I used to... Listen, I don't like any government, okay? I think that's pretty apparent. But I used to think that the town council one here, or as I like to call them, the town coercion council, I veered towards one of the better ones, but I no longer have that opinion. There's one particular gentleman, it's not my district, but he needs to go. He's always rude and condescending towards, and that's Councilman Dietz. Very rude and condescending towards, and I didn't extract this out, I should have, where he's just like, I just can't believe people would oppose these. So, let me give you the background. The town council has decided to put on the ballot by its own initiative, which it has the authority to do under our town charter, for tax increases. Anyone else wants to get anything on the ballot, you've got to petition for it. Like RCB, they wouldn't even give us 5 minutes to make a presentation. But how many hours have they now dedicated to plotting on how they're going to commit more robbery? And what's even more dastardly about this robbery is that a lot of it, well, first of all, the bulk of it either comes from A, the people who can afford it the least, because we're a very affluent town and the richer people have no problem voting for more tax on groceries, say, because they can afford it. Meanwhile, the people who live here that aren't the more affluent might need to go to the next town over to save a couple bucks. Or, you know, they will vote for increased taxes for parks. You know, I love parks, but parks are a luxury of those who don't work 2 jobs. And the ones who work 2 jobs don't want their money being stolen for parks. Or it's on people who don't live here yet. So it's the epitome of taxation without representation. It's visitors. So I say yet, don't live here or don't live here yet. So it's a new lodging tax, which then of course hurts people trying to have their homes make an extra income through Airbnb, or the people who are coming through the hotels, or on new home constructions, making homes in Castle Rock already more unaffordable. There's some new homes going up right where I live, and I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination. You guys hear me groveling for money constantly. You know that I'm like, I have to do the hustle just to barely make it. And houses right across the street from me are now going up, starting at $500,000. Starting! I never would have been able to live in Castle Rock if that had been what it looked like, you know, coming into this. And first-time home buyers very often have to buy new constructions, because the way the market is right now, they can't compete with over appraised values on already existing homes with cash investment buyers. They just can't. So they need to buy these new constructions, and it's just outrageous, this extra tax. And it was Councilwoman LaFleur was just like, oh, well, just let them buy a pre-existing construction then, which was just like, she didn't get it. She doesn't understand. She's probably very well off. And, it was the equivalent of Marie Antoinette's let them eat cake. Like, it was so, and I know Marie Antoinette really didn't say that. Please don't do that to me. This is a parable. And the cluelessness. But Veron will tell you this is true. The way they got around our criticisms was, how can you complain? We're not saying pass these. We're going to leave it up to the voters, the all-important democracy, the voters. Okay, now that they've decided to put this on the ballot and the ballot language has been approved, all of a sudden their story changes. Hello, Julian. Now they're turned into advocates. So not only did they salt the soup by putting this on the ballot, now they are becoming open advocates from their positions of power to pass these, which of course benefits them, because huge voting blocks are police, fire, these special interests. And they claim, or the city manager claimed, and city managers are just a special breed of scumbag, I swear, and along with city attorneys. So the city manager said, I can't advocate for the passage of these taxes because I'm on the city payroll, but the council people can. So they passed 4 resolutions urging voters to adopt these. So they've just constantly had their hands on the scales the whole time. Now, the council members get a salary, though. I am going to be asking the town clerk for the rule or ordinance that they were citing where it said the city manager couldn't advocate for this. Because, listen, I'm always looking, and out of the 100 things I look at, I might not find one, but on the 101st one, I find one. I'm always looking for something to sue the shit out of government officials for. Because it seems to me they are using tax dollars to further their personal advocacy in the same way the city manager can't. So maybe I'm wrong, but I want to look at the way it's worded, because they get a $700 a month salary, so it is tax dollars being used to advocate to rob me more. And who's paying for the lights? Who's paying for that building? How can you say it's not using tax dollars for advocacy? And I wanted to show you something else. I got this email the day after the town council update, which talks about them passing these resolutions. So this goes out to everybody whose email address they have and the town of Castle Rock. Who's paying for this? I am. So, and Ferran asked, do you mean we have some emails, but do you mean a snail mail? If we could raise money for it, yes. Or we could just hit the streets and put out things on doors. Wayne has started an issues advocacy committee to work with campaigning against these things. So let me get with you and Wayne. Perhaps we could do it through the issues advocacy committee rather than the LPDC. Because make it nonpartisan, and because there's already nonpartisan cooperation on the issues advocacy committee, but he's already raised several $100s. So we have our street signs bought. So let's talk about this. Oh, and you're not at the meeting tonight. I'm not obviously either, because I inadvertently scheduled an interview for tonight because it is the Douglas County meeting tonight. My bad. I try not to do that. So let me get that off the screen. So now I want to, and Tyler said the councilman on the left seemed like he likes you and Wayne. I don't think any of them like me. Wayne is very likable. I'm just a pain in the ass to government officials, and I don't think it endears me to them that each time I walk in the building, I say, smells like coercion here. Yeah, Wayne, everybody likes Wayne. Wayne is like, except for like some really shitty people in the LPCO, Wayne's the most easy person to like in the world. So let's play Wayne and I's testimony about these measures. But it's going to go right into another clip of another testimony I gave, which I didn't film that night. And it was for a grant for the Historic Preservation Committee. Let me set this up as well. I don't know anything about where they get their money from, so I wasn't going to speak against the grant. I was asking for information and encouraging them to find other ways other than theft to fund preserving historic buildings. You guys know preservation of history is near and dear to my heart. But I still don't believe in stealing for it. And Farhan, in case you didn't know, they awarded, I think it was, I can't remember, it was $50,000 or $25,000 but it was a matching. The property owner had to put in that much as well for that old Masonic Lodge building down on Wilcox. I think that's Wilcox. You know what I'm talking about. It's right across the street from the Castle Cafe. Wonderful old building. Rhyolite, like historic as hell. Like built in the 1800s. If I can, let me see if I can find a picture of it. A wonderful building. So Masonic Lodge, Castle Rock. I want to get a tour of this building, particularly if my tax dollars are going to be paying to help renovate it. And apparently they've gotten grants before. Oh, so interesting. So let me pull this up. Oh, it has a Facebook page, this Masonic Lodge. Interesting. Let me see if there are photos in this Facebook page. Not really, just that one. Okay, well, I don't want that then. Well, let me just share my screen here. So you can see here in the upper right-hand corner, that's the way it used to look. And right here, like to the left, this one, let me see if I can pull it up. This one right here is how it looks now. What happened to it? That's how it used to look. This is how it looks now. Why didn't it? Well, you can see where I've got the blue. You can see that thing that used to be on the roof is now gone. And I'm really curious as to what happened. What was this thing up here? It's like a little cupola. And I want to answer Tyler's comment here in a minute. Okay, let's go back to me. So that's the building for the historic. And Tyler asked if I've tried a line of private communication. You might be misunderstanding my goal. My goal isn't to change their mind necessarily. My goal is to start educating the public on libertarian principles through public comment. And if I change their minds, fine. But I don't believe in private communications with government officials, just like I don't believe in private communications with LNC members. I think all of this stuff needs to be out in the open and transparent. That's probably why I'm not a good politician, because I don't do the rounding up votes ahead of time the way some LNC members do, which I find very sneaky. And the private kibbutzing, I just don't do it. I believe everything needs to be out in front of the constituents. That's just me. It might not be the most effective, but it's my principles. And again, a lot of times when I'm, at least my goal in talking isn't always to convince, though it'd be good if it could happen, the person you're talking directly to. It's the onlookers who might be libertarians and don't even know it, you know, and to get a coalition going here in Castle Rock and to elect some libertarians rather than trying to beg for scraps from status. Okay, so let's play the public comment. Wayne's first, then me, and then me on the historic building.
We do have some members of the audience who would like to speak. Before they speak, would there any questions for Dave or staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to public comment. I have Wayne Harless.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. Because of the high level of intensity right here, I think I'm going to start with a little bit of levity. I wish I were in a position to make a motion for the town of Castle Rock to buy each and every one of the town council members a copy of Robert's Rules. That was fun. I've had it said to me before. But I am here to speak about this resolution tonight. Over the past few months, there have been multiple comments, and I don't know if it was multiple comments from one of the town council members or from several, that they were glad that they didn't have to vote on this, that they're going to be able to put it in the lap of the voters to vote on all these tax increases. If you vote on this resolution, you are voting for this. And I am starting an issues committee, and I already have 2 radio interviews started and scheduled, and I can promise you, every single one of you that votes for this resolution tonight will have your name mentioned on the radio. I promise. So do with that as you will. If you want to just leave it in the hands of the voters, that's fine. But if you vote on this resolution, you're advocating for it, and you're telling the voters where you stand. So, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Pardon me. Next up, I have Karen Ann Harlos.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to start somewhat similar to my husband because we just happen to be Robert's Rules fanatics. There's no such thing as a friendly amendment, and I would certainly suggest that the town council invest in a current copy of Robert's Rules rather than the 10th edition, which the town manager appeared to, or town attorney appeared to have. We're on the 12th now. I'm studying to be a registered parliamentarian, so I'm a geek in that regard. But now back to the issue at hand, which is agenda item 12. I was quite alarmed to hear Councilmember Dietz actually say, complaining about what? I wonder if he had listened to my husband and I the 2 times we came where we specifically said why we were complaining. Now, that doesn't mean any council members have to agree, but to act like we haven't articulately expressed our views was extraordinarily disrespectful. Have you not listened? I remind you, every time I come up here, I start with the same sentence. Government is force. And I want you guys to get that through your heads. This is an inappropriate use of your power. We kept hearing this very noble calling about how you just wanted to put it before the voters. But now you're salting the soup, or at least you're thinking of salting the soup, by using your positions of privilege and power to influence this vote. I don't care if it's allowed by the rules. It's unethical. And you should not be doing it, and it flies in the face of everything you told to us before about how, we're just letting the voters decide. No, you're not. You're becoming advocates for force. It's funny, I kept hearing this emotional, I would call it emotional manipulation about how can you possibly be against having more police. The only thing that was missing from that manipulation was think of the children and why do you want to kill grandma? That's not appropriate coming from the DS. Police protect us from street thieves. Who's going to protect us from government thieves? That's what I want to know. And it wasn't just about police. We're stealing for parks. You guys are reaching into my pocket to steal for parks. You can say it's only a modest amount. I'm going to come up and just collect $1 from each of you at gunpoint tonight. Will you be okay with it? It's just $1. It's modest. It's not up to you to determine what is a modest amount to steal from other people. I would really like to see the town move to a model where you have voluntary earmarks. I'm sure a lot of people would voluntarily pay for parks. I might. But don't steal from people who don't want to voluntarily pay for parks. I shouldn't have to give a civics lessons that parks are not a proper function of government. If there's to be government at all, its only proper function is protection of life, property, and liberty, not frisbees and dogs. And I noticed the city manager say, those people don't talk about these issues of, we have the lowest property taxes. Yes, we did. We did talk about that. And in fact, someone got up here and challenged that characterization. I'm finding when I come here, there's a lot of back patting,
glad-handing about how great the council is and how bad the people are that oppose things. And I really wish this habit would stop. Stop downplaying coercion as modest and stop having a mutual admiration society. And as far as saying your advocacy isn't using public dollars to advocate as it would be if city employees advocate, who's paying your salary? I am. Who's paying for this building and the lights? I am. Yeah, you are using public dollars, and I deeply, deeply resent it. It's inappropriate. Do not vote for this resolution. I don't care if the law allows it. It's absolutely unethical.
Thank you, Karen Ann.
Hello, Council. Here again, obviously. First of all, I'm a huge history buff, so all of my sympathies are towards this. And I'm actually not speaking against approval because I first learned of this, and I don't think it's fair to change rules on people mid-game. But I do question tax money being used, again, for things that are not a legitimate purpose of government. If you haven't figured out right by now, I'm a hardcore libertarian, and I'm always going to come before you with this to remind you of what the proper purpose of government is. I think when it comes to history, you can get voluntary funding for this. I'm actually the chair of the Libertarian Party Historical Preservation Committee. I raise my entire budget for that project. It doesn't come out of the party's operating fund. I would be more than willing to help serve on any kind of historical committee that was trying to find big donors to help voluntarily fund this. I think it's a worthy project. I just don't think it's something that the force of government should be used to fund. I understand I might not understand entirely, though, all of the funding. It seems like some of it might be coming from other sources other than the taxpayers. So I do admit a little bit of ignorance here, but to the extent it's coming from the taxpayers, it should not. I do like the safeguards that are put in place, that the property owner has to have skin in the game, and there's a certain encumbrance and things like that. But still, this is not a proper function of government. With that being said, I adore this building. And, you know, again, I'm not speaking against its approval now because it's not fair to the property owner to change rules mid-game. But as you start to look at next year's budget, I'd really, if this town wants to be the innovator that I keep hearing that the council wants and I want, why don't we be an innovator with having voluntary earmarks on tax bills to the residents and let the residents actually put their own money on the line without using the force of government to force their neighbors to pay for things that their neighbors might not. I would contribute every single year to preserve history, every single time and twice on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen Ann.
All right, so I think that that covered it. They all, I didn't include, of course, you know, their votes and things like that. I thought even the way they behaved during their voting was inappropriate. Like, I think it was Councilwoman LaFleur was like, enthusiastically yes. You know, that's just, when there's opposition from the public who's, we aren't her direct constituencies because she's not in our district out there, you don't rub it in that you're voting against public comment. You just don't do that. That's classless. It's not professional. And I'm really surprised at some of the lack of professionalism on our town coercion board. Now, some of them are perfectly professional. I just don't agree with them. For instance, my councilwoman, Johnson, she's never been unprofessional at a meeting that I've ever seen. I just don't agree with her, but she doesn't do that weird kind of gloating and like putting down people like some of them do. So one reason I play these is just to educate, and you never know who's perusing through YouTube that might also live in Castle Rock, but it's also to try to encourage and educate all of you to get involved locally and just give you examples of some things you can say and how easy it is. It's not intimidating. Most, now maybe bigger towns or cities won't be quite as calm as there, but most of these are quite routine. There isn't crowds there. You know, so I'm certain very controversial issues, you're going to be in a long line of public comment. But usually, Wayne and I were the only people who gave public comment on anything that night. So it's just me and him on agenda item, I think it was 12, and then me alone on 14. And that's very typical for medium-sized to small towns, I would say. So I would encourage you guys to get on the mailing list for your local municipality and start getting involved. It's not difficult, and it will give you experience in this sort of thing. And for those of you going, oh, all you do is bitch, I am running for town coercion council, but I won't be a coercive person next for 2022. Now, it's my first serious run at anything, so don't really know what to expect. I've been a line holder before. But yeah, so I am putting my money where my mouth is, or my efforts, as it were, where my mouth is to run. I'd probably be the one no vote on everything, because they seem to be having a mutual admiration society there about how wonderful they all are. All right, so before we go, I'm going to be getting ready for another interview. I wanted to, because I haven't done this in a while, pimp the book. Sean Dempsey's Tale of Two Brothers for the Children in Your Life. It is a great storybook that instills the lesson that life is more than just sustaining biological function. It's about actual life, and life involves risks. So it is a way to teach about not living in this climate of COVID fear, but without directly tying it to that. It ties it to other things that your kids would more relate to, and the adventuresome brother does some, things that the kids would be like more interested in. Let me try to find some of the cool pictures here that I had seen. 1 second. Because definitely, yeah, like this guy, like the rock climbing picture. Now, come on, what kid's not going to love that? So, yes, I highly recommend this. You can get it at Amazon or tale2brothers.com. And also, please go and subscribe to one of this show's supporters' YouTube channels, Daniel 3 Biblical Anarchy. Even if you're not a Christian, it deals a lot with libertarianism, and you get to understand the points of view of people who are coming at it from more of a religious perspective as well. And he's got some really good interviews on there. There's an interview with Angela McArdle, and if I don't say so myself, I think one of my better interviews is on there, because we went into different directions than the typical interview with me goes in. So please do go and subscribe, as he is also a supporter of this show. Thank you, everyone. I will close out with just one more plea for patrons. This is my job right now, so I truly appreciate any support. And there is bonus content that is on Patreon right now. We are going through Radicals for Capitalism, and it's a wowzer of a book. There's 2 tiny portions of it, and if Joy is still here, she'll like this. I'm actually going to read out that portion about the demunicipalization. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. Demunicipalization of garbage, because that was such a great little paragraph, little story that was told there. And there was another one, something that Rothbard had said or did, that I'm going to do little separate segments on here, but we're going into that book in depth on Patreon. And I think the book we're going to do next is The Problem of Political Authority, which is also a very good book. Okay, everyone, have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians, or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want